Right, hello everybody and welcome to another YouTube video, and because it's the end of the year, we're going to talk a little bit about movies that have released this year. Now last year I did a bit more of a top 5 of my favourite movies of the year. I did toy with the idea of doing that this year, but I thought, actually, let's just throw a little limelight on some other films that maybe weren't blockbusters or, big box office hits. Now, granted, these are not small movies at all. Not small movies at all, but they're also not giant franchises like Jurassic Park, or Avatar, or the MCU. So, kind of different, I guess. I'm just going to talk about 3 movies this year that impressed me in some way, be it through screenwriting, or special effects, or writing, or performances, or all of the above. And actually, saying that this isn't really a top 5 movies of the year thing is kind of a bit inaccurate, because the first movie we're going to talk about is probably one of my favourite movies that came out this year. So we're starting things off with a wonderful film called Prey, which is, as you can probably guess by the name of it, part of the Predator series, however, the first one that's not called Predator. Prey follows a nomadic group of Native Americans, in particular a young woman played excellently by Amber Midthunder, who you may recognise from various other action movies, including one about ice truckers with Liam Neeson. Granted, that's not the finest movie in the world, but it is the first one I saw her acting in. The film rapidly escalates with the arrival of, you guessed it, the Predator. However, this is a very different Predator to the ones that appeared in the Arnold Schwarzenegger films, and also the more recent Predator, which I'm not going to talk about because it was kind of pants. And calling it pants is being kind, to be honest, so we'll just move past that. But this is a very different Predator, like I said, and it's a lot younger, a lot more reckless, and a lot more focused on winning than taking care of itself. It's a Predator that throws itself into fights very, very rapidly, and it doesn't seem to plan that much. It's strange, it's interesting, it sets up traps like you would expect, it uses its weapons to its advantage. However, just focusing on its weapons and the modern aspects of them, compared to, obviously, the people that it is fighting, because this film is set in about, that's a good question actually, but several hundred years ago. So, as expected, the Predator has a bit of a technological advantage, but doesn't always work out in its favour. The film never outstays its welcome. It's only about an hour and a half long and just focuses on the story, which is the most pleasant part of it. There's no faff, there's no fluff. There is obviously an overarching story about the young woman who is the main character and her place within her group, because she's not really seen as a hunter, mostly due to being a woman. However, the film turns that on its head, and of course she turns out to be the badass that she always thought she would be that in fighting a group of hunters, poachers, predators, bears. I said predators with an S, there's only one actually. Bears, wolves, it's got it all really. To me, the finest aspect of the film is that it doesn't meander, it doesn't wander, it doesn't lose its excitement. It sticks to the plan, it's pretty short, it's just all wrapped up neatly. Everything happens that you would expect to happen, but nothing ever feels boring. And some recognition to the cinematography of this film, which is absolutely beautiful. It was all filmed on location in Canada, and boy, there's some landscapes in that film. Some really good landscapes, and it really adds to the feel of how alone this group is, and how the Predator could just take them out one by one without them fighting back. But, given that it's a Predator film, they're gonna fight back. All in all, in my eyes at least, it shapes up to be one of the best Predator films since the original, and also opens up the franchise to all sorts of time periods and locations that they could go to. With the success of this film, it really shows they could put the Predator just about anywhere in history, seeing as they've apparently been around for hundreds or maybe even thousands of years. They could go to feudal Japan, they could go to England during the Industrial Revolution, they could go to Africa at pretty much any point in history. They could go just about anywhere and any time with the Predator movies and the franchise as a whole. They've proven that with the right actors, the right director, the right writers, they could go just about anywhere, and I would love to see them do it. So, with that done, let's move on to the next one. The next film I'm going to talk about that you really should watch if you're into comedies and your schlocky 90s action is The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, starring Nicolas Cage as Nicolas Cage, and also a younger Nicolas Cage, also as Nicolas Cage. The film starts off with a struggling Nicolas Cage looking for work and being a little bit short on money, which actually is completely based on real life, because the man keeps buying dinosaur skulls for millions of dollars. Upon receiving an offer to appear at someone's birthday party, Nicolas Cage takes a flight down to a tropical paradise and is met there by the excellent Pedro Pascal, who plays sort of the client, I suppose. The film plays out a little bit like a buddy comedy, with Nick torn between helping his new friend and helping put him behind bars, and it leads into a lot of rather silly adventures along the way, which any fan of Nick Cage will love. It references his older movies, it literally just talks about his older movies actually, because he is just playing himself, and it also appears to have, well, what I can only describe as a shrine to Nick Cage, which any fan of his movies will love pausing, zooming in, and having a look at. This might be one of my favourite performances of Nicolas Cage, to be honest, because he really buys into it. It's a film making fun of how absurd his life is, and he embraces it perfectly. It's got shootouts, it's got comedy, it's got Nicolas Cage wearing all manner of disguises to get around unnoticed, which obviously doesn't work very well because he is an absurd human being, and I love him. And after all of this, all he wants to do is get home to his family, which isn't actually his real family. This is a fictional family for the film. But other than that, pretty much all of it is just Nick Cage being Nick Cage. With all the twists, turns, and general absurd silliness, this turned out to be one of my favourite comedies of the year. And it doesn't really surprise me, to be honest, because Nick Cage could do just about anything, and I would watch it. He's proven that with his 90s action movies, his 2000s action movies, his 2010 action movies, pretty much just all of them. Most of it's action, but it really shows in this film that he can do comedy, and he can do it very, very well. So if you're looking for about an hour and a half of complete silliness and a very funny performance from Pedro Pascal as well, I would highly recommend that one. And with that, we're going to move on to the third and final movie of this little video. The last film I'm going to talk about in this video is a Netflix movie called The Sea Beast, which is an animated family comedy action, sort of everything really, and I really enjoyed it actually. This year, I've been doing movie trailer streams over on Twitch every week, and basically we just go through all of the movies that are coming out that week, have a little look at the trailer, and decide what we want to watch. And through doing that, I've discovered a lot of movies that I probably wouldn't have known about otherwise, and The Sea Beast is one of them. I think if I was scrolling through Netflix, I probably would have skipped over it. But after watching the trailer, thinking about it, talking about it a little bit, decided to give it a whirl and really enjoyed it. The Sea Beast follows, as you would expect, a sea beast being chased down by a group of professional hunters protecting their land. It features a great lead performance from Karl Urban voicing one of the members of the crew who takes in a stowaway after she sneaks on board their ship as they set off on their latest hunt. One of the things that took me in the most about this film was the animation of it. It's a very, very pretty film, lots of lovely water and a hefty dose of thalassophobia, and as someone with that phobia, maybe some scenes weren't quite as enjoyable as they could have been. The writing is very fun, it doesn't drag, it's quite a short runtime, and much like Prey, it just sticks to what it knows, which is, there's someone on board the ship that shouldn't be there, the captain's a little bit angry, also there's a sea beast chasing them. But everything, like in many other films like this, it's not the way it seems at the surface. The film weaves its way through taverns, islands, cities, and of course the ocean on its way to its conclusion, which might just teach you a thing or two about judging a book by its cover. And as I said, the animation is one of the things that sticks out the most to me about this film. The music was also very good, but as you can see from the images, it's just really stunning to look at. And that's what got me the most about it. I don't know the budget of this film. I can't imagine it was ridiculously high. It's not exactly Avatar. But with the way that they animated it, it really stands out. And it's just a very nice film to look at. And of course, due to its harmless nature, you can watch this with any member of the family, and if you've got kids, they'll probably absolutely love it. But for me, a childless 28-year-old, it was a good time. And with that, we're working our way towards the end of this video, but it has been a very good year for movies. Like I said, this video is not sort of my top 5 like it was last year, it's just talking about some other films that released this year that might not have got as much attention as they should have really. But to really wrap it up, and I'm going to need notes for this one, we're just going to go through a few other things that happened this year in movies, because it has been busy. Now, yesterday, as of filming this, it's Christmas Eve right now, that's right, filming a video on Christmas Eve, don't know why I'm doing that, but yesterday we had Rian Johnson's Glass Onion release on Netflix, which I will be watching very soon, because I can guarantee that's going to be one of the best movies of the year. At least from what I've heard, it's got very good reviews so far. But that's there. We also had Avatar 2 released this week, which it's been, what are we at, 14? 15 years since the original Avatar? That's probably going to win a lot of awards, because it's Avatar. Let's be honest, people are going to absolutely love it. We also had Doctor Strange 2, aka the Scarlet Witch movie, released this year, which was just a fountain of absurdity. One of those films where I kind of watched it in the cinema and just had my jaw hanging the entire time, because that was really, really something. Also in the MCU, we had Wakanda Forever dealing with the loss of Chadwick Boseman and obviously redirecting an entire franchise, which I haven't seen the film myself yet, which to be honest is just makes me the worst Marvel fan ever. But I've heard very good things, and obviously it's incredibly difficult to, you know, resolve something like that. And they had to change the entire script completely for obvious reasons. And from what I've heard, it's an incredible tribute to Chadwick Boseman and a very good film overall. And just jumping back to Avatar 2 and sequels after a long time, we also had Top Gun Maverick with Tom Cruise, which he's been pushing for years, and it has really worked out because that is one of the biggest movies of all time now. And speaking of big movies, we had Black Adam release with Dwayne Johnson, although that is diving into a very messy DC universe, especially after James Gunn has taken over. James Gunn and others, of course, but God knows how they're going to work that out. The Rock himself has said that Black Adam will return in the future, however, not anytime soon. So that's going to be odd, and The Rock might be getting on a bit by the time they get back to that. But another franchise, there's a lot of them this year. We also had Jurassic World 3, Chris Pratt's Dinosaur Gang. Didn't see that one either, to be honest, because I thought the second one was kind of rubbish. Just very silly. I love me some Jurassic Park, but if you're going to put a laser on a dinosaur and use it to attack people, I don't know why you wouldn't just use a gun. Going back to DC, we had the Disconnected Batman from Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson. As far as I know, not part of the extended universe, but will be getting a sequel because it was fantastic. In terms of more light-hearted stuff, we had some fun romantic comedies. We had People We Hate at the Wedding with Kristen Bell. I watched that quite recently and thought it was very enjoyable. It was a good popcorn movie and made me laugh quite a lot. We also had About Fate with Emma Roberts and Thomas Mann, which was very generic. It's also a bit Christmassy, and I love me a Christmas movie, so would recommend that as well if you get around to seeing it. There was a pause there because we got onto the absurd section of the films that released this year, because we had Moonfall, which is one of the most bizarre films I've ever seen, but if you want to laugh and cry with laughter, you should definitely watch that because it's completely ridiculous and goes so far off the rails, I don't think there are rails anymore. Along the lines of even more silliness, we had Day Shift featuring Jamie Foxx and Snoop Dogg fighting vampires. The more I say it out loud, the more strange it sounds, but it was actually a very fun movie. And we also had Sebastian Stan starring in Fresh. That one went to places that I didn't think it would go, but if you're into your disturbing films, give that a look. But all that's left to say is thank you for watching, and thank you for watching the movie streams this year, thank you for watching the videos on this channel this year, and have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we'll see you in 2023 for more videos like this one, so make sure to give it a like, subscribe, stick around, have a good time.